All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Hope you all are doing well and had a good trading day. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what Bitcoin is doing. We had quite a decent range for this candle. It did close bearish engulfing, unfortunately. We did top out around 67K. That's where where I took my profits on my longs that I did have open. So I was able to get out before we started heading down for the rest of the day. A lot of chop, right? And this line right here of our value area low around 65.6 is a pretty good support level for right now. So not that it's going to hold, but that's kind of our last saving grace before we drop down further. Um, Again, since we did pump first for the week and we kind of did a 786 retracement on Tuesday, there's a good chance that we may get one little tiny grand finale up, maybe taking over a little bit more than half this candle, I'm thinking, and then we fall. So as far as sentiment goes on a weekly time frame basis, I'm still leaning more bearish. It's very difficult to tell right now, so I'm not obviously 100% sure. Nobody can be 100% sure in this market, but I am definitely leaning a little bit more bearish now. The only thing, like I said, that's saving us is this line right here, which is our value area low. Let's take a look at the 12 hour. So the 12-hour closed bearish engulfing. Definitely a very bearish sign for now. We have high stochastics starting to curve down. We have that red dot that printed. So there's a very good chance that again, we get a very small retracement, maybe around FOMC or right before, and then for FOMC or right after we get that fall. That's kind of what I'm preparing myself for. Not that it's going to happen that way, but that's kind of what I'm mentally preparing for. Moving on to the 8 hour. So the 8 hour is, you know, I like the flag that it's in. Um, it can always fall through, right? So I mean, it is technically in a bullish flag right here. On some of the time frames, even some of the bigger ones, you are getting some mixed signals. So like the 8 hour looks like a decent flag right here, but it's still not the best sign. Okay, so you know, really. My initial guess is that the bullish case, if we do drop, would be to test the 64.4 area, come back up. I have all of these other levels as a potential because we could potentially start really falling down here. Especially if we're in a bearish week. As we pumped Monday and part of Tuesday, we kind of did that 786 on Tuesday that I showed you. So I am expecting for this to drop further as long as we get below this and treat it as resistance, basically. Um, so anyways, guys, that's kind of on the bigger time frames what I'm expecting. 4 hour, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, we're still staying somewhat above weekly open. We made that wick. We're coming back up. That's a really strong resistance area. But the more times, again, like I've told you, is the more times that you come and test it and tap it and go underneath it, the better chance one of these times that you're going to actually fall through it, right? So this value area low has to basically keep us on the higher time frames in order for us to still maintain a bullish bias, at least in the shorter time frames. 4 hour does have a decent flag. It's just that we would like to see there be violence. We kind of have been slowly dropping this whole time for the past day or so, and um, if it is a bullish flag, you would expect it to actually have a violent move up. If this is some sort of pennant, the measured move would technically be back up into the probably the 67 range, I'm assuming right now. Let me take a look here. So if we took it like this, something like that brings us into 67.6, right? So getting us back above this level, maybe making some bearish div, and then we drop, who knows, right? We could take out this high and then drop. It's going to be very difficult to tell until tomorrow for the FOMC meeting. Coming into like the 1 hour, for example, I saw this both ways. I know that JP at Sin City Crypto, he said that this was like a shoulder head right shoulder, which I do see that. The other thing I was seeing though was I was seeing kind of more of a inverse Adam and Eve that we're possibly building out. This is your Adam and this is possibly your Eve. So that would be like the bullish case. The head and shoulder would be the bearish case. I'm starting to think more that it could be that inverse Adam and Eve. Not because I have a bias for a bullish bias, but just because this is not really making another shoulder like a complex would per se. It looks more like a kind of a rounded bottom on the 1 hour at least. So that is a bullish case. The stochastics, let's take a look, are kind of bottoming out. So that supports that theory. On the tether dominance, you're still dealing with being in kind of a flag. If we go into the higher time frames, you still have that falling wedge pattern. So what's weird is we have both BTC and tether dominance in that same kind of falling wedge, and one of them's going to win and one of them's not, right? So it's either tether's going to explode to the upside and Bitcoin's going to fall, or Bitcoin breaks out of this flag to the upside and tether dominance is going to kind of roll over here. So this could be potentially, being open minded, this could be your shoulder, your head, kind of slanted right shoulder ish type of thing. Um, you know, I should probably draw that better, but kind of like this, I guess maybe it's a very weird slanted head and shoulder type of pattern. So just kind of be aware of that, guys. I don't expect a lot to happen tonight. The only thing that could potentially happen sooner rather than later is, in my opinion, if we are in a bullish bias, this breaks up within the next so many hours, and then maybe we, make some bearish div up here for FOMC and then drop. Um, ideally, if we're going to be bullish for the FOMC meeting, we want to see price drop, before or during FOMC, and then bounce back. We don't want to see it pump first before or during FOMC and then drop because, it really what happens in these events is that price usually reverses after the event or right before the event ends, I've noticed. So we definitely want to see price dropping a bit as it's beginning or going on and then reversing and coming back up. That would be the bullish case. Um, Going down into the 15 minute kind of shows almost like an inverted head and shoulder in my opinion, and that still looks like that Adam and possibly Eve type of thing. It is, the Adam is not as deep as the Eve, but you kind of see it's almost like a slanted Adam and Eve right here. So that is possible, and we are kind of getting a move back to the upside. You could kind of even take a look at this as like an inverted head and shoulder type of pattern, so that could also take us back. If we measure from the neckline, I'm just curious to see where that would possibly take us here. Yeah, so you're looking at about 66, 443, maybe taking out this double top right here, which would make sense. But again, I don't know if this aligns with, does this align with a bearish 786? Of course it does, almost perfectly, right? So um, I would definitely have 66, 482 on the chart to see what, and how price reacts to that level. That could be our measured move for now if we get a bullish, move overnight. So just kind of keep that in mind. That would, in theory, take us down to probably this, I'm assuming right around the 63 or 62 area if that was a bearish 786. So those would kind of be two areas to keep in mind, 63,372 and 62,146 if we did that first. Anyways, guys, that's kind of some theory that I got going on there. Not that it's going to happen, but I'm just kind of speculating for right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the 66,482 lines up with our trading different chart here. All right, so Trading Different, our nice liquidity tool here, and I am now affiliated with them. You can see my link down here. It's tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean. So feel free to use my code. You will get 10% off if you do use my code, so feel free to do that. If you're interested, it's one of the best liquidity tools I've found by far. I've tested Bull Vision, I've tested some other Trading Different tools, and it's definitely not as good as that. Um, Let me take a look and see what's going on with the daily. So on the daily time frame for Bitcoin, taking a look here, you can see that we do have a little bit of liquidity to the upside, not a lot. That 66,480 number, let's plot that. Let's see, that would be right around here, I believe. Let's see, 480, right around there maybe. That's close enough for right now. We'll get into that more once we drop down into the smaller time frames. But we have 66,458 for right now. Not too much change on the daily time frame. We do have a lot of this liquidity above. Not too much yet, below us, at least for the 3x. The 10x, the 5x, the 3x all showing more above. The 25x shows a little bit below, right? So Definitely shows more of a chance that we should move up first, but again, this is on the daily, so you never know. Um, 4 hour, let's take a look and see what that looks like with the 25x. So 4 hour kind of shows the same thing right here. So, you can get up into this area. Still don't really see at 66, 600-ish. We don't really have any concentrated liquidity right there. So that is quite interesting. We'll drill down into the 1 hour and see if we can, find any of that. Let's go ahead and go into the 1 hour and see what's going to happen more short term for Bitcoin here. So, all right, so we said 66 480-ish, I think it was. Yeah, so right around there. Um, so the 1 hour, 100x liquidity. Let's take a look. Yeah, so you can see, look at that, guys. I mean, you kind of have this little bit of liquidity that lines up with that, right? So, I mean, you could technically be making a head and shoulders pattern here if we were to pump back up tonight with that inverse Adam and Eve. So, that's definitely in the cards to wipe out some of those shorts and then to just kind of fall into some of these other areas, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Be very wary. I am not trading this right now. I'm going to, be patient and wait for FOMC probably until after FOMC to start trading this. You're going to experience a lot of chop tonight. Is some potential volatility, but if the long does play out, just know that there's a good chance that it might reverse on you, right? So just be very, very careful for right now until FOMC, I would say. Um, let's take a look at let's see, that's for the 100x to 50x, not too much locally. You do have a little bit above, but you also have somewhere around that 64, 700 area we've been talking about, 64.8, with a little bit below it. Let's take a look at the 15. We're going to compare it with our order book, Kiyotaka here on the right, and then we're also going to take a look and see the simple um, order book to just kind of compare and see if there's anything visually different by looking at it from a plotted perspective here. So, um, taking a look at the 15 kind of paints the same story, right? I mean, you could literally see that we could just kind of plow up here, take out this double high, right? This double top, and then, basically come back down. So the short could still be in play. You could technically play this. It's just risky, right? Because even the 50x, you could keep coming up and taking some of this out potentially if we are bullish for right now. So, like I said, guys, I mean, just be very careful with this because this is right before a major, more of a major federal event, especially with Kevin Walsh now taking over as the chair for the reserve. So, just kind of be aware of that. It could be a very different meeting tomorrow. A lot of volatility could occur. So, I would definitely be careful with that. And then if we compare, the order book, not a lot of orders going on right now, right? So we have more, a little bit more concentrated orders to the upside, a lot smaller orders to the downside. Doesn't really mean anything though. A lot of this can be faked. Fake bigger orders can be put in to stop the price from, going a certain direction like we've seen. But it's a very light order book, which means that there's not a lot of manipulation right now. So just kind of be wary of that. That's probably why we've seen a lot of chop today. Let's go ahead and finally take a look and see the simple heat map here. So if we go into the simple map for trading different, um, all right, so you can see this is kind of how this, let me teach you how this works. So this is our scalping time frame. So this is going to be your 15-minute, your 1 hour. This kind of shows liquidity up to 100x. You have 100x, 50x, and your 25x, and then 10x. So you can see that, we don't have a lot of, liquidity per se, that where people have gone long. You have a little bit, you have some, so many million longs here, but a lot of shorts, right? I mean, you have the multi-millions in the shorts. So, even as you start getting up into 67, 770 and 69 even, like look at that, 72.7 million of cumulative shorts around that area, right? So, there is a good chance that, we could see a potential fake out going up at least a little bit. And remember what I said is that the market makers usually like to liquidate the 100x and 50x traders first, and then they worry about the lower leverage traders on the bigger time frames. So you definitely have more. You have quite a bit of 100x down here, right, for the longs, but you definitely have more short term for the shorts. So that tells me that in the near term there's a better chance of the shorts being taken out first before the longs, at least according to this chart. Going down into more of a swing trading environment, so this is the swing trade. um, Again, kind of the same thing, right? So this is what you would be looking at like on the 4 hour basis or the daily basis. This is more of your swing traders, right? So you can see that definitely once you hit below 59K, you got a lot of people longing, a lot of swing traders that are longing, right? So this is a lot of liquidity, unfortunately on a bigger time frame scale, all the way down, back to gosh, in the 40s, right? And we've talked about the 40s quite a bit. So, you do have a decent amount to the upside, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately there's this huge block to the downside on the from a swing trading basis. So, it does look like in the near term you have more 25x, and 10x that you could be taking out to the upside. So a lot of these shorts can get wrecked up to 72.6. But just keep in mind that there's a lot of people longing in this area, which, a lot of times the market makers like to wipe out the area with more liquidity, right? So that's, obviously right now to the downside, this could still be a bearish month, okay? Even if we pump for right now. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, feel free if you want to use this tool, you will get 10% off if you use my code down here, so feel free to use that. And I will talk to you guys in the morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care.